welcome to Yarngasm. I'm Kristen, also known as Voolenvine, here on the podcast, on Ravelry, on Instagram, where I am most socially active, and pretty much everywhere else on the web. And as always, I'm so happy that you're taking some time out of your busy, busy days. I know there are so many podcasts out there, yet you choose to come back here every week and hang out with me. And if you're new to the podcast, thanks for checking me out. It means so much that you're here chatting about all the knitting, all the sewing, all the making, or whatever crafty endeavor I am currently obsessed about. But yeah, I have a super heavy knitting episode for you guys this week. I hope you're excited. But before I get into that, I just have a couple of announcements. We have a knit-along. It's exciting. We already have a couple knit-alongs happening throughout the year. We have the Year of the Garment Cal that's currently underway, and we also have the Box of Socks knit-along that's currently underway, and I encourage you to check those out over in the Yarngasm Ravelry group. There are threads dedicated to both those knit-alongs. They're year-long knit-alongs with lots of inspiration and activity happening in those threads. I'm not going to get into it here, but definitely check it out in the Yarngasm Ravelry group. But I'm also going to be co-hosting a short-term knit-along with my good friend Nina of the This Old Knit podcast. We both decided that we want to knit the Way Through the Woods mittens by Erica Mount, which is not a new pattern, but it's a pattern that Ellie of Skander Knits had knit a while back. I believe it was last year. It was a mystery knit-along. She kept referring to the pattern as the Forest Pig Mittens, even though that's not what they were called. There was just like one motif on there that looked like a pig, but it was a bear. Anyway, long story short, I think she basically dubbed this pattern as the Forest Pig Mittens, and both Nina and I agree that we both need a pair of Forest Pig mitts. So because we both want to knit the mittens, we decided let's host a cal together. So it is going to kick off September 22nd, I believe, and it's going to last for about 3 months. You know, we want to give everyone enough time. I hope you guys are excited to join in. Hop on over to Nina's Ravelry group. It's called the This Old Knit podcast. I will of course post a link to that in the show notes down below. I've actually never met her in person, but she's been with me. We've been keeping in touch through the podcast and online and social media for as long as I can remember, and I'm so lucky to call her my friend. She's just a wonderful person, and I'm finally going to get to meet her for the very first time at Rhinebeck this year, so I'm super excited. I will create a thread in my Ravelry group, and I'm sure Nina will be creating a thread in hers as well. So we haven't figured out prizes yet, but I think we're gonna keep things as casual as possible. So yeah. So I hope you guys are as excited for that cal as we are. It should be a lot of fun, and yeah, 3 months should be plenty of time to get them done. But yeah, I think that is it for cal news and other announcements. So just a quick word from my sponsor, my amazing sponsor, Skillshare, before I get into what I've been making this week. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes in design, business, tech, and more, even sewing and the fiber arts. As you know, I'm improving my photo skills and doing so by binge watching photography classes on Skillshare. Just finished a class called Fundamentals of DSLR Photography and loved Justin Bridges' teaching style. I learned so much about the exposure triangle in a very little amount of time. And because I know you love learning new things too, I partnered up with Skillshare and they are offering my viewers 2 months free to try their platform. So give Skillshare a go and learn something new. Just click on the link in the description box below, entering the code at checkout, and enjoy. And thanks, Skillshare. Okay, so my Belmont Cardigan, which is a pattern by Gudrun Johnston. This is the second incarnation that I am making. Well, the first incarnation was a failed attempt, but I have since cast it on again a year later using some different yarn. It's Tuku Wool's fingering weight yarn, which is 100% finished wool, and I picked this up at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year, and it's mauve, guys. It's appropriately mauve, my favorite color, and as you can see, I made quite a lot of progress on it. Since I last showed it to you, I was working on one of the sides, and I completed both sides and joined the shoulders using a 3-needle bind-off. So here's a close-up of that 3-needle bind-off, and it creates this really awesome, neat, polished seam over here. This is what it looks like on the underlining, the undersides. It's one of my favorite bind-offs because it creates this really neat and tidy effect. I have arrived on Sleeve Island, so we're gonna be here a while, my friends. It's currently in vest phase, so if I wanted to, I could just wear this as a vest. And this one fits a little bit more snug than the last version that I was making. This one is knitting up at a slightly tighter gauge, which is fine because I don't mind. I actually prefer a bit of negative ease, especially in the bust area, because it gives me some shape. So yeah, this is gonna block out as well. So it might look a little snug on camera, but I can stand up and show you guys. It's gonna be a cropped kind of cardigan situation, which is perfect. I think it goes really well with especially this dress that I'll talk about in sewing, but I think it's gonna look really, really nice. We shall have a Rhinebeck sweater. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I just have to put the buttons on, knit the sleeves, and we are gold. I will say that I did run into a little hitch knitting up when it came to decreasing for the shoulders on the fronts. The pattern was very well written, so it wasn't, you know, Gudrun Johnston's fault. I had to really pay attention and keep in mind when I wasn't going to be able to complete a full lace pattern repeat, so if that makes sense. So I had unfortunately had to rip back and reknit, rip back and reknit a couple times. Again, that's what happens when I try to do 2-3 things at one time, such as knitting and watching podcasts, especially on projects that require some attention. So anyway, but after you're done with the lace, it's just zip, 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 zip. So it should be relatively smooth sailing from here. I just have to pick up the stitches along the armholes and then knit sleeve island. So yeah, that is my Belmont cardigan. I am so excited to finally have this done because yeah, as soon as I saw the pattern, like however long I cast on the first one, I knew it was like my style. It was something that I definitely wanted to have in my wardrobe. And honestly, I'm so happy that that one didn't work out because while I do like myself a green cardigan, I have the Thripe Muir pullover that I knit by Isolde, and that's green. It's definitely not one of my go-to colors that I wear, so yeah, I'm really happy that I frogged that and cast on one in mauve because I love wearing mauve. Can never have too much of it. So anyway, yay, mauve Belmont cardigan. Next up was a impromptu cast on, Starditis Struck. I'm not sure if you guys follow Diana Walla, who is Cake and Vikings on Instagram. Anyway, she's an amazing pattern designer. She specializes in color work and Norwegian traditional designs. And anyway, I was browsing my YouTube subscription feed and saw that Diana Walla had posted a tutorial for the Latvian braid. And for the demonstration, she was using one of her pattern designs, the Hoopla Hat. And as I was watching the tutorial, I was just like, that looks like such a fun hat. And at the end of the tutorial, she was like, by the way, it is from Pom Pom Quarterly issue 25. And I was like, wait a second, I think I have maybe like 2 or 3 issues of Pom Pom, and it just so happens that I happen to have issue 21, and sure enough, the Hoopla Hat is in there. But the good news is that it's no longer exclusive to Pom Pom. You can go to her pattern site on Ravelry and download the pattern. But yeah, here's the pattern in question. And yeah, it's just a really simple, fun colorwork hat, and it calls for worsted weight yarn. And after I was done watching the tutorial, I was like, I want to cast it on. So I went stash diving and realized my glorious stash over here is seriously lacking in worsted weight yarn. However, yeah, I had 2 balls of Knit Picks Swish, which is 100% superwash merino wool, and each skein has 110 yards. They're 50 grams each. So I automatically I was like, yes, it was meant to be. I had 2 different colors. I had marbled heather and garnet heather, and guys, it's almost a hat. This knit up super quick, and it was seriously, I cast on one morning before, you know, before I started working. I knit the ribbing in the morning, the Latvian braid at lunch, and then I might have finished up here by the end of the night. Or no, like halfway into the last colorwork motif. And yeah, that's what I did in a day. And then the next morning I set out to finish the hat, and I would have finished the hat, except the yarn chicken attacked and the yarn chicken won. Yeah. So unfortunately I ran out of marbled heather. So I think I'm going to have to order some more of this. and so I can at least complete it. And Dennis expressed that he really liked this hat and he wanted it for himself, so now I have to finish it. And I will say this pattern was so fun to knit that I can see myself knitting like at least 3 more this year. I don't know, they make super great, super quick knits. Anyway, Diana, if you're watching, this is such a fun pattern, and thank you for designing it and inspiring me to cast it on. So yeah, I'm gonna have to place another Knit Picks order. And when I say another, of course, Newton's Law, I had just placed a Knit Picks order. When, like, first of all, it's been super long since I ever placed a Knit Picks order. Not that there's anything wrong with it, I just haven't had the need to purchase anything from them. However, I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the segment, but yeah, I just ordered a sweater's quantity worth from Knit Picks. So anyway, Hoopla Hat, I'm gonna finish it at some point, just not today or tomorrow. I'm so sad because I was so looking forward to having this cast off, taking photos, and yeah, being able to give Dennis an early holiday present. If you guys are apprehensive about the Latvian braid, don't be. It is stupid easy. I will post a link to Diana's tutorial in the description box below, along with everything else that I chat about in the episode. It is extra tropical out, you guys. It is a hot one, so forgive me if I have an extra glow about me, but you know, yeah. So, okay, next up is a new cast on. I know I have several other things on the needles at this point, but I wanted to get this cast on and done with. Well, I do want to get it done with, but you know, I wanted it on the needles so I can just zoom. And that is Dennis's sweater. Yes, the husband sweater has commenced, and it is the Rift Shawl by Jared Flood, also known as Brooklyn Tweed. And I'm using Peace Fleece, which is this really scrummy 80% merino Rambouillet wool from Cottage Hill Farm in Ohio, and 20% Texas mohair. And it is worsted weight, so that's working in my favor, the fact that it's worsted weight. We're knitting a man sweater. And also working in my favor, Dennis does not have gorilla arms. I lucked out in that department. And I'm knitting the size small, so not extra small. He's a 40-inch chest, so, or in sweater size, he's a 40-inch. So I believe the size that I'm knitting is approximately, give or take, 43 inches. So he's gonna have a little bit of extra ease in there, but that's totally fine because he can layer. This is supposed to be a super cozy, you know, woolly sweater that he can chuck over in the winter when he is cold. So, as you do. So anyway, I've completed the ribbing and now it's all just stockinette island. So yeah, the ribbing I banged out yesterday, and it does have a tubular cast on. So I know I chatted about the tubular cast on last week. I was having a little trouble with the needles that I was using, and thank you to everybody who suggested alternative methods. I know Diana Walla also recommended Isolde's tubular cast on method, which, you know, I watched and I gave it a try. But I will be totally honest, it wasn't for me because that whole method of casting on where you create 2 little loops over your hand, like the traditional long tail cast on where you take your needle, go over, under, over, under. Anyway, it wasn't happening for me. I will be totally honest, I hate that type of cast on. Not only because it just throws my mind for a loop, pun totally intended, I find that it also untwists my yarn, or it makes it, I don't know, it does something to the twist of my yarn while I'm casting on, and it just drives me nuts. So unfortunately, that method didn't work for me. I just used the tubular cast on method that was in the pattern, and I will say that the needles made all the difference. So last time I was using some rather blunt, I believe wooden needles to do the tubular cast on, and that just was not happening. So I purchased some Chiaogus, which have a relatively blunt, they have a great point, but not as pointy as the Haya Sharps, but they were pointy enough where it was easy for me to get under that bar of yarn running between the last stitch that I knit and the next stitch, if that makes sense. So the point was great for that, and now I have since changed to the larger size needles, and I'm using my go-to Haya Sharps, which have an even pointier tip, which I love because, yeah, I love the point. I love a sharp point. But yeah, this is knitting up super woolly. I was knitting next to Dennis on the sofa. We were watching Westworld last night. and I was just plugging away at the ribbing, and Dennis just could not help commenting on the smell. And it smells sheepy, so which is not a bad thing. You know, it just smells like sheep, as it should, because it's 100% wool. So yeah, so it's woolly, it's sheepy, and I can actually feel the lanolin in here. And I am, yeah, looking forward to knitting this thing up. So yeah, and this is how much yarn I have left from the first cake that I balled up. And I also knit the swatch from this, so yeah, it comes with a lot of yardage. I'm trying to think how much. Yeah, 200 yards per skein, which I believe is like 198 meters. I'm just kind of guesstimating there. Anyway, that is my Rift, or Dennis's Rift pullover that I'm currently knitting. All right, let's move along to sewing. I do not have a completed garment, a new completed garment to share with you this week, which is fine because I feel the past couple of weeks I've had new garments to share with you. This week, well, I did try to make something, it just didn't pan out, but I will get to that in a second. Let's chat about what I'm currently wearing, and that is the Klein dress, a pattern by Calife. I always want to say Calife Designs, but no, it's she has the Calife collection on Etsy. So it's an indie designed pattern, and I sewed this maybe a month ago, and I love it. It's out of Liberty fabric. It's a gathered skirt, comes right to the knee. Really simple construction. I've been wearing it all summer long, and I love it. Yeah, so anyway, I will post a link to the episode where I chat about this pattern in case you're curious, again in the description box below, or the little doobly-doo up here. So yeah, let's talk about my tale of woe. So unfortunately I do have a tale of woe, and I chatted about this in the seamstress tag at length, I feel like. So I won't bore you to tears this episode, but I'll chat about it a little bit. But I attempted to sew the Coco dress, a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons, and it's a very popular pattern. Really simple construction, perfect for beginners. It's jersey striped fabric, and again, this was my very first time sewing with stripes, and I just had a hell of a time getting the stripes to line up on the sides and the seams. So even though I spent maybe like an hour and a half pinning everything in place to make sure it was all lined up, the lines were just not aligning. They were kind of lining up, but then at this point I was just like, you know what? Finished is better than perfect, so I just decided to plow through, and of course, Newton's law, the stripes started lining up, and I'm trying to find, where did it even line up, or am I just seeing things? I don't know, like towards the bottom here, the lines started lining up. So anyway, all that's left to do is really just hem the sleeves and the actual hem. And I tried it on, and I just really didn't like the way that it looked on me. It has way too much positive ease, and I have kind of like an athletic figure at the top, and kind of curvy in my butt hip area. It was just clinging to me in all the wrong places, and it just made me look, it just really was not looking well at all on me. So I basically just decided, you know what? I'd rather spend my day working on something that brings me joy as opposed to frustration, because frankly at this point I was just really frustrated with the whole project. So I cut my losses and just decided, you know, I'm gonna knit on something that brings me joy at this point. So yeah, unfortunately that is my tale of woe. No Coco dress for me. And I chatted about this in the seamstress tag, how for some reason I just don't mesh with Tilly and the button patterns. I've tried sewing a couple of her patterns, and they just never pan out for me. As I said, nothing against Tilly. Her patterns are very well written, and the designs are adorable, and I love her aesthetic. It's just most of her styles just aren't for me, and for some reason I just have a lot of problems completing her patterns and getting results that I like. So unfortunately, I think I'm gonna take a break from Tilly patterns for the time being. I wish I had a happier sewing story to share this week, but unfortunately, that is what I have. So, okay, let's chat shop update because I'm having an update this Saturday, September 8th, I believe. I think it's the 8th, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time at voolenvineyarns.com. And yes, it is another Saturday update. That's just the way my schedule is working out this summer. Hopefully, I will be back to a regular Friday update at 7 p.m., but hope you guys can make it. Here's a little preview of what will be in the shop. It is going to be another Volca and Nouveau base update, and Volca is my superwash merino nylon cashmere fingering weight yarn, and Nouveau is my 100% superwash merino single ply weight yarn. Anyway, those are my favorite yarns to knit a sweater out of. So yeah, we are going to have more Dirty on Purpose, and here it is on Volca. We are going to have some Moon Cusser, and here it is on Nouveau. There's going to be more Fig Bash, and this is it on Volca. Then we are going to have a new colorway that started out as a Strange Rue, but I have since made it a regular. This is my new colorway Indoorsy on Nouveau. So yeah, that is all I have dyed this week so far. Emilie is coming over today. She's going to be dyeing some more Gashly Crumb, and I haven't decided what else I'm going to make her dye today. I don't know. It's a mystery. We'll find out. But yeah, so more colorways are coming. Again, if you would like to be looped in about what colors are going to be in each update, I highly recommend that you sign up for the newsletter, which you can do by going to voolenvineyarns.com, and at the top of the page there's a link to sign up for the newsletter. And I send one out, or do my best to send one out at least once a week. So definitely check that out. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, this is all I've dyed this week because I did take Tuesday off. I didn't take Labor Day off. I was working then. I dyed yarn, and Emilie came over and we shipped yarn together. So I did take a makeup day off. By the way, happy Labor Day weekend. If you are not familiar, Labor Day weekend is a holiday here in the US, and yeah, it usually marks the end of summer. So if you did celebrate, I hope you got some time off, got a last minute end of summer vacation in, or at least some extra knitting time or making time. Dennis and I pretty much stayed local, but as I mentioned, I worked on Saturday and then took Tuesday off. If you can count as recording a video and uploading it to YouTube as a day off, I think I'm going to take Friday off as well. But anyway, I've been managing to get work done. So here is what I have dyed so far, but there will be 2 more colorways in the shop. So again, sign up for the newsletter if you'd like to find out what those are. I am going to move along to the Blather segment, a segment where I chat about what's been happening in my life, should you care to stick around. Okay, as for what's been going on in my life, it's been pretty quiet. Nothing really much to write home about, other than, you know, obviously I've been casting on all the things. As I mentioned, I did purchase more yarn from Knit Picks. It was kind of an impulse buy. I was browsing Ravelry, you know, just seeing what patterns were out there, and I stumbled on Andrea Mowry's new pattern, the throwback cardigan, and it looked like something that I need in my wardrobe, and I know I'm already knitting the rose cardigan. However, I'm starting to feel a little... Both the rose cardigan and the Like a Cloud cardigan, I think I've lost steam on both of those cardigans. Unfortunately, I can't explain why. I'm just not feeling them. So again, when that happens, I don't force myself to finish a project. I've just learned to just scrap it, frog the pattern, and save the yarn for something else that I'm more excited about. And again, nothing to do with the designers, nothing to do with the pattern, it's just my own personal brand of crazy. Yeah, so unfortunately, I think I'm going to be giving the rose cardigan and the Like a Cloud cardigan, I'm sorry, not sorry, it's how I roll. So anyway, but yeah, I was on the prowl for a new cardigan or pullover to knit, and the throwback cardigan made my heart sing. The pattern actually calls for 3 skeins of wool cycle in their Dream State base, which I believe is worsted, and then I'm blanking on what other, Julie Aislinn, I believe, for the main color. Anyway, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be on a budget because I am saving up for Rhinebeck. So out of curiosity, I hopped onto Knit Picks and browsed their Wool of the Andes. It's been so long since I've knit with Wool of the Andes, but for $1.99 per skein, you cannot go wrong. So I purchased a sweater quantity's worth of worsted weight yarn for this pattern for under 20 bucks. US. You can't go wrong with that. So anyway, I'm really excited to get that cast on. Hopefully after my Belmont is finished. So that will be my reward for finishing my Belmont. But yeah, so really excited for that one. So as far as other news, photography is still going strong, still playing around. Dennis and I have been, getting out on the weekends, visiting, the waterfront areas in Brooklyn, which are really beautiful. They're turning a lot of the waterfront areas in Brooklyn, especially Greenpoint and Williamsburg, into waterfront parks. So, pretty much like the High Line, where you can just walk along. It's all connected. They have, recreational areas, baseball fields, food stands, and just really nice green space that you can get a view of the water and the city of Manhattan. And anyway, we've been checking those out, and I've been bringing my camera along. I got to take some photos at Golden Hour, which was a really fun experience. But yeah, just having so much fun learning all that I can about photography as usual. Oh yeah, and I also started listening to it's not a new podcast, it's been out for a while. Again, not to throw Katie's name out there, but Katie from Inside Number 23 has been raving about this podcast forever. But then this week I was watching the Arctic Knitting podcast hosted by Emilie, and she started listening to this podcast, and I was just like, oh my gosh, all right, I'm gonna start listening to this podcast because everyone just keeps talking about it. And that podcast is my favorite murder. And I will be totally honest, I'm not one for true crime dramas. I'm just not drawn to mysteries, but it is so much more than just that. The hosts crack me up. I love them. I think they're brilliant. Just a heads up, they do swear a lot, which I am all for. I love a good swearing podcast. I feel like, I'm just hanging out with a bunch of friends, just chatting about these crazy stories that took place. So anyway, definitely recommend it, except if you have little ones around, you might want to wait until they're out of the room, just heads up. But anyway, really awesome podcast. I've been hooked. Each episode is like 2 hours long because they cover 2 murders. But again, each host covers a different story, and it just makes for a really great listening, especially while I'm dyeing yarn. So anyway, definitely check that out if you haven't already. I'm hooked, so yeah. So that said, I think that is the episode. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe below. I put out a new podcast every Thursday, and hoping to put out an extra episode, kind of like a vlog / maybe tutorial episode earlier in the week. So, just testing the waters, seeing what works for me. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and have an amazing knit-tastic weekend with lots of making planned. Happy knitting, and I will see you next time. Bye!